We need to talk about Sean OMalley. I got a couple things that I want to talk about regarding your boy Sugar. You know what I'm saying? So the first one is going to be talking about, and apologies, folks, because I got all this stuff like on my phone and whatnot. But so the first one is Sean OMalley going to be talking about his criticizing the UFC a little bit, not really, more criticizing Sean Shelby, not Dana White. Of course, you know you don't do that to the boss, right? But I'm going to read the headline and I'm going to read a little bit, and you tell me what you think. So the first thing that we have is this. Sean OMalley criticizes the UFC. Why do they have a problem paying someone what they're worth? Question mark. Everybody's asking that at this point. But he says, I don't even know if I'm supposed to say this, but I was talking to my manager and he was talking to Sean Shelby and Sean Shelby was mad at me. Dude, I don't want to fight in New York. You know, obviously, regarding the pay-per-view that's going to be coming up, like UFC 267 or something like that. He says, I don't want to fight in New York. It's far. The taxes are ridiculous. Tim Welch, his coach, has a no-gi ADCC trials that weekend, and he told me that before I even potentially had a fight. So he has prior obligations, right? You know the UFC doesn't care about that, but nonetheless, right? So he says, that's his thing is, I'm not going to say, no, I have a fight. We're doing it, especially when I could take the fight a month later in Vegas, and Sean Shelby is just mad at me and like, fine, go hang out with 6ix9ine, Tekashi 6ix9ine, since I guess Sean OMalley just got like a 6ix9ine tattoo or whatnot. And he was like, dude, Sean Shelby's just acting like a fucking tool, dude. Like, I don't know if I should have said that or not, but it's like, dude, come on, what are you doing? They don't need me. The UFC would be 100% fine without me. If they want another huge, giant star, I could fill that role for sure, but they don't need me. So that's the first half of that quote, AJ. Just give me some thoughts on that.
I mean, that's rough because nobody's in control of Sean's, money making besides Sean. Like if the UFC is going to pay you what they pay you regardless, but Nevada is going to take less of a cut than New York's going to take, that kind of like business wise makes sense to me to say. It's like why a lot of people will own, their business is in this place. I do all my taxes out of Wyoming because they don't have any income tax or whatever, Texas or whatever, but it's actually in California. So nobody wants to pay California taxes, man. That's just how it is. Sean's being a good, the Sugar Show is being a good businessman on this one. I do think though, probably not the best call letting the sheep out from under the rug. There's nothing worse than talking shit about your boss and talking shit, and that's like the one rule of all, being a man is, you don't let your business out there. Don't air your business out for the rest of the people. You keep that stuff, where it needs to be. We discuss things like men, that's how it goes. So, kind of a knock on Sean OMalley on that one, man. You don't just go out saying that kind of stuff, but he does have a podcast, so he was just kind of talking on it. But at the same point, man, I definitely I see both sides on this one. Yeah. The last thing you ever want to do is fuck with a man's money. I definitely think that's how you end up dead. Like, you fuck with somebody's livelihood. That's grounds for, a hell of a beating right there. But you also, you don't talk business out to the rest of the world as far as that goes too.
I agree, and I'm going to finish this quote, but I will have to say regarding that, man, when you have very little leverage, right, Sean OMalley, you have very little leverage. There's no union in the UFC, man. So it's like if you could be fine and live for the rest of your life off of the money that you've already made and the money that you can make with your, deals and promotions, cool. If not, you better be nice to that man, Sean Shelby, bro, 'cause that's your boss. You know what I'm saying? And everybody got a boss in life, man. And even when you are the boss, the customer is your boss. So everybody got a boss. But let me just finish this. So he says, he was all like, he was like, they don't need me, but don't treat me like that. Like, act like I'm not training or nothing. Go, you're hanging out with 6ix9ine. He was like, dude, I hung out with him like once, yada, yada, yada. He was all like, basically, Sean Shelby's treating me like a piece of shit. I'd rather talk to Dana White instead. I know you're going to be asking for a lot of money. It's just like his rhetorical, right? Sean OMalley will be. He says, no shit, I'm pulling fucking numbers. You can't deny that. Why do they have a problem paying somebody what they're worth? That shouldn't be an issue. That should be like, especially when I'm blowing up like that. Those last 2 fights, 3rd round finishes, handing out brain damage, you should be like, hell yeah, I'm going to pay you a lot. You earned it. He says, dude, I was UFC 264. I just want to ask you this. We've seen Conor McGregor get a little bit of the blackball treatment from the UFC from time to time after doing crazy shit and saying crazy shit, right? What makes Sean OMalley any different from that? Like, to me, it just kind of seems like he's like, well, I am the UFC. So if, you know what I'm saying, they don't fuck with me, I'll just take my talents elsewhere and I'll be this huge star. And it's like, you are very popular. You are really big. But you ain't beat like crazy. You ain't pulled a Conor McGregor beat the Jose Aldos. He's fought the Khabibs. He's fought the Poiriers and all that. Win or loss. The man has kind of earned his place in that spot. For Sean OMalley, I don't think it's really at that point yet. Do you think he feels a little too untouchable here?
I do. And don't get me wrong, I'm an undefeated fan. So it's hard to say, but I definitely think Sean O'Malley's getting a little bit too big for his britches on this one. He's not Conor McGregor yet. He definitely can be. But I think there's a difference of, a lot of people say the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And I think for this one, you really need to be that squeaky wheel saying like, yo, I'm pulling numbers. Like I need to get paid more, but you need to show up for the job and do the job. There's a big difference when somebody's, crying and bitching and saying like, no, I don't want to play. So I'm taking my ball and I'm going home. Versus the guy who's saying like, yo, like I want to get paid more, but yeah, we can still play. That's is a very big difference, and a lot of respect goes to the guy who's willing to be the squeaky wheel, but then show up day in and day out and do the work that needs to be getting done. There's a lot more respect that goes to that guy than the guy who's crying and taking his ball home. You know what I'm saying? So definitely, I think Sean's getting a little bit too big for his britches on this one. Don't get me wrong. Like he said, he is pulling numbers. He was one of the most entertaining fights on that card. That right there, that statement's arguable as well, but he's been doing it for a long time with the KO highlights and all that stuff. He's a big, Dana White's a big Sean O'Malley fan. Sean has a huge following. So it's hard to not be that confident in yourself, especially as a fighter. You need to be very confident going forward. It's hard to not think that way. And as far as a fan and, everything else, I do like that mentality of, yo, like I'm the star, bro. Like, this is me, like, but he's right. The UFC doesn't need him. The UFC has a lot of star potential, and they have a feeder system where there's more and more and more coming up the pipe. So, I definitely think it would behoove Sean O'Malley to keep being that squeaky wheel, saying like, look how many numbers I'm pulling. I got all these knockouts. I got all this, and I'm about to give you another one. Let's go. Going forward. What do you think, Derek?
I think that you summed that one up very well, my man. The only thing that I would say is that there are other athletes in the UFC, the Cerrones, for an example. There's a reason why the man was able to lose like 4 or 5 in a row and not get cut. It's because he's always there. Every time they need you, he's there. So it's like you rub their back, they'll rub yours. And sometimes in life, it is the quid quo pro or whatever. You know what I'm trying to say, right? It is that scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. So you can't always be demanding. You have to be, hey, man, all right, I want to get paid more. I'll go out and I'll fight this fight. I want to get paid more. And after I knock this fool out, you better be paying me more, as opposed to I want to get paid more, so I'm not going to fight until you pay me more. It's, you know what I mean? So yeah, you just kind of got to take your licks with this one. Dana White, he says this is not a career, this is an opportunity. But it is important to note, like you said, AJ, this is a podcast. So Sean O'Malley is just riffing here, you know what I mean? And it's like taking something that we're saying right here, putting it in text and making it sound crazy. Like it's not as serious as we're making it seem, but this is unfortunately. This is an article that I'm reading off of from MMA Junkie. So it's exactly what a media outlet did. They just took words from his podcast, wrote it into an article, and made it sound a certain way. But this next one regarding Sean O'Malley, this is something that I was talking about earlier regarding, kind of wanting to fight cans and stuff. Quote from Sean O'Malley: "Next fight, a lot of people want me to fight somebody ranked," O'Malley said recently on the No Jumper podcast, another podcast here. He says, "They wanted me to fight somebody ranked last fight. I was supposed to fight Louis Smolka, which was true. Smolka had to pull out." He says, "For money, whether I fight Louis Smolka, the dude I was supposed to fight, or I fight Piotr Jan, the number one bantamweight in the UFC. I get paid the same. I'm going to fight the dude who is lower, and I'm going to fight the dude on a Conor McGregor pay-per-view." He says, "Uncle Chael said it best. He always says fight the worst dude on the highest part of the card. A lot of bantamweights and just people in the UFC that definitely hate. It comes from jealousy. I'm getting way more eyeballs than them. I perform in there. You can go and watch some of these performs, and you literally pick up your phone, start surfing Instagram, and you don't give a fuck what they're doing." That's true, dude. Like, basically everything he's saying is true. So it's hard to fault the man. Now, the hardcore enthusiast might say, oh, well, martial arts, you got to fight the best. You got to have honor. Like Max Payne Griffin, UFC, I think he's, I don't know what weight class he's fighting out of right now off the top of my head. But he says, he was like, I don't really respect it. I always like to fight the best guys. But I mean, what do you guys think? You know what I mean? So he wasn't like casting a lot of criticism. He was saying, me personally, not for me. But hey, I get it. What do you think, AJ?
I think if this is a life and death kumite, everybody, we're fighting in the back streets. I want to be the biggest, baddest dude there, and I want to beat everybody up. I want the hardest fights possible. But at the same point, we're fighting for long. We're fighting for money. Uncle Chael said it best, man. You want to fight the worst opponent for the most amount of money on the highest part of the card. Chael Sonnen says that you don't rankings don't matter. Your placement on the card matters, and those pay-per-view points are what matter. And I agree, man. If you're getting more eyes on your crowd, clout, or your own. What's the word I'm looking for? Like, your own persona, I guess is a good way to say your own business. That's key right there. Traffic going in is better than no traffic at all. So I definitely think it's a matter of pride versus money. If we're fighting for pride and we're fighting for who's the baddest dude in the room, yeah, I want to fight the baddest dude in the room. Now, let's say it like this, would you rather fight me for $20 or would you rather fight Conor McGregor for $20?
It's you.
Yeah, a way easier fight. There's no like it's a thing though. But if you rather, you want to fight me for $20 or you want to fight Conor McGregor for millions, that's an easy choice right there, man. Yeah. Conor McGregor all day. I'll take the ass whooping for millions all day. Yeah. So it's hard because this sport is a fight. It is at the end of the day. If there's no referee or nobody in there, this is a fight to the death. That is true. But it's also an entertainment factor, and we got to play that into the thing as well. So I don't know, man. This one's a hard one.
It is definitely. Like I said, I can see it from both sides, from the hardcore enthusiast as opposed to the businessman, because the businessman says, listen, I'm just handling business. You said it earlier. It's just good business practice. You know what I mean? It's not like the dumb thing would be, let me fight all the hardest guys for the same amount of money, lose all of them, get kicked out of the UFC, and then now be broke for, my life. I have to go work at, McDonald's or whatever. No disrespect. McDonald's is not a bad gig. I'm just saying, going from the star potential of Sean OMalley to McDonald's is a steep drop off. Nonetheless, man, we can move on from the Sugar Show news, because like I said, they just want to take everything he says and make it something big. I'm just in it for the thought experiment, man. I think it's something interesting to think about.